Begin. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing Dante's journey through the world of Bayonetta, picking things up with Bayonetta 2. The game basically starts relatively the same. Bayonetta is walking around, stuff's going down, and do we say Dante gets swapped in right before the angels show up to cause her problems, or like after?
Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit sooner than when they show up in the cutscene. Like it'll probably be like 5 or 10 minutes before, like right before they start shopping. I don't know. She basically goes into like a dressing room to try on something, and she just gets yeeted. Like just gets sent out of the universe, and then Dante shows up. It's plopped next to the front of the store outside on the street, and it's like, oh god, oh god, it's like happening all over again. And then he sees Enzo, and he's like, oh, I guess we're doing this again.
It's like, oh,
Um,
welcome
so
back here again. At least I don't have to pay
so
my
we'll
rent.
say that the angels sensing that Dante has arrived in the world of chaos are not too pleased with him because he's basically his existence is like committing is basically a crime to their like existence. Like him just existing is considered offensive to them, kind of like the gaze of despair. Because whenever he like activates any demonic power, he just basically is like poisonous to them. So that's they really took that personally. So they decide to attack him, and Jean being nearby because she was also shopping at the time because they were preparing, I think, for some Christmas party because it's also Christmas time, kind of like right now. Um, yeah, he just starts fighting the angels. Um, we
What
also established, I think, that Dante would learn how to jump into Purgatorio because he would just have to like manipulate his demonic power in a particular way.
you say fight the angels, but you
Um,
mean just casually just walk up to them and they just die due to demonic power. He DTs once and
yeah,
murders the entire world of angels.
just imagine that this time around, the Angels were like, we'll just send more guys. We'll send them bigger guys, and then it just takes mildly longer. Um, in this section, we did discuss it in the prologue because we're skipping the records of time because that's basically like an alternate time. That doesn't matter here. We discussed how it's potentially a problem uh, that like certain events happen because like Bayo or a specific character exists in a certain format, so we have to swap them out. With Bayonetta here, the only reason most of the plot of Bayonetta 2 happens is because due to the removal of the right eye of the world, the balance in the worlds of chaos becomes unstable. So demons basically start turning on Bayonetta, which causes Jean to attempt to save her and then gets, attacked by Gamora. But that's not really going to happen here because Dante doesn't summon Gamora as like a demon. So what will basically end up having happen is that Jean, during the midst of this, because obviously like angels are still fighting, she's basically picking some of them off near one of the bridges. She summons Gamora to kill like Valiance because she's basically been sparring with him for a little bit, and then Gamora breaks free, and then just like swipes her while Dante's on like the other side of the city, or not maybe not on the other side of the city. He's on like the other side of the bridge, and then he senses it happen and then runs over there. And then like obviously as soon as she gets swiped out of the body, she gets pulled to Inferno. So he's able to grab her physical body, but he's not able to grab her spiritual body before it gets pulled in.
Yes.
So then he just kills all the angels. And we're just gonna say he also well either Valiance retreats
Well,
just
he
so
has
that
to
he can
kill
have a
Gamora.
boss fight later.
Yeah, he kills all the
Well, we'll go ahead.
angels and Gamora. Does Valiance come back for later on, or is it a different Valiance?
He does. He well.
Are you sure it's not just different Valiance?
Uh, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't know if it really matters because, like, the Angels, the way.
Damn.
No,
Fuck
no, no, no. I don't mean
individual.
because of I don't mean because of the character in question. I mean, like, I don't think it really matters because of Bayonetta's lore. Because, like, even when the cardinal virtues die, they can just reform. So like, 'cause they're technically just born of the logic of heaven. I'd imagine that Valiance isn't really any different because Valiance isn't like an individual being. So if he dies here, he'll just come. There'll just be another one that comes back later, probably. They're not like the Dias where they have like individual nonsense. Like there's generally plenty of them. You just don't really see them that often.
Alright, so Dante more or less makes it through relatively easily, kills all these demons and angels, and then proceeds to take her body back to Rodin. And Rodin's like, if you want to help her, you gotta go to Inferno, bro. So
He's just like, wait a minute, hang on. Did you say Inferno? Because I believe we had a discussion about that last time where it ended with the barrel of my gun at your neck, and you that's right, the demon world.
cue Rodin boss fight out of nowhere. Rodin boss fight ends. Demon world, you gotta go to the
It could be like, listen, that's where her soul goes. I'm like, yeah, that's just
world.
Like the demon world. When people die, their souls go to the demon.
Clearly,
like you're just proving my point, Rodin. And then he just opens up a portal.
Rodin's like, just go through there, just go. So,
just go.
So Dante,
don't even take the plane. I'll pay for everything.
Just go through the portal.
Go.
So Dante makes his way to Misselheim or Missel. I don't know how it's pronounced.
No. So Enzo basically scripts a charter flight for him to get to Noatan. It's the same thing as when he sent him to Vigrid in the first game.
It's Fimbulwinter. Yes, sorry, I was looking at the walkthrough and they used Misselheim first. Yes, so he shows up at the base of Fimbulwinter.
Yeah, Noatan, which is the city at the base of Fimbulwinter, is just normal city. He's gonna run into a few angels here and there, but nothing he can handle. He's mostly just gonna scale up, and I'll be honest, until the end of chapter 2, he's just basically gonna run into like, space angels here. Like there's anything crazy, to be completely honest. There's like an underwater section, but Dante can read underwater. Not gonna be a factors.
So just a pretty easy run through, and even then, Valiance is the last angel he really fights here. But Valiance's sword is just Yamato, or basically.
But like worse, because its statement is just simply that it can cut anything in Inferno or Paradiso in half, which is like, that's not even a statement of just straight up durability neg. That's like, my sword is strong enough to cut anything in these worlds in half. If you interpret that as durability neg, that's fine, but you have to interpret that as durability neg specific to what Inferno and Paradiso have shown, which is not really impressive.
Regardless, even if you were to compare it to like Yamato, Dante can obviously block Yamato with Rebellion, so Dante has no troubles with this fight. That's on top of the fact that even if he gets cut, it's not going to really do anything to him.
Yeah, he can resist being caught by Yamato as well. So and he can survive being caught by it. So it doesn't really matter.
Yes, then just clears through it some more. Then we get to, I forgot this boss battle, but we get to that one flying angel serpent thingamabobby.
Yes, he gets pulled into the gates of paradise yet again. Wait. Actually, hold up. So, I believe before he's pulled in there. Oh, wait. Never mind. I think I skipped it. There's like a section that he fights Balder in. Wait, no, that's. Oh no, never mind. No, he gets pulled into. Okay, so after climbing the Remembrance of Time mission, like climbing basically one of the God, it's been a while since I played Bayonetta 2. Like, I believe he's climbing the mountain at some point, and he basically makes it into Paradiso and fights Glamour, which is just, again, same battle that he's had. There's literally fought flying angelic enemies from Bayonetta 1. It's going to be the same thing. You'll just shoot him from a distance. There's not really anything worrisome about this. Then after that, we have the first fight with Balder in chapter 4, which is the two meets.
Wait, hang on. I guess we should clarify regarding certain encounters. Meeting Loki, He probably would, but he probably wouldn't care about Loki all that much. Just move on. Dante usually just kind of like lets
Yeah,
characters like that go.
Loki's probably just going to tag along and basically stalk him so
Yes,
that the plot can kind of happen. Also, it's probably just going to get made fun of.
and Luca probably wouldn't get involved since Dante's Dante and not Bayonetta.
Yeah, he's well, let's just say Dante's not that appealing.
Well, that's what
But
happens. That's what happens when you're basically forced into a multiversal love that you technically can't avoid by the sound of it. But whatever.
I mean, you make it sound like he didn't want it, but
Wow, wow, Mangler, removing someone's agency is not okay.
but someone willfully giving up their own agency for their own emotions is not okay. Okay,
You bigot.
interesting.
You absolute bigot.
How was that bigoted? What the fuck?
Anyways, so yeah, get through there, clearing out more angels. Dante just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Basically, his mere presence, and DT kills most minor angels. Just fights other people like Urbane.
What is this DT? You mean?
Whoa.
You said Quicksilver. They're funny there.
Well, what? He's just gonna activate Quicksilver, just like basically.
No. So every time he runs into something that's like annoying, that's taking more than 5 seconds, or is like really irritating him, just like wait, hang on a minute. I have an auto win condition, please. Hold up. Quicksilver. Yes, the sound of you screaming is far more pleasant
Dante
than like
just
whatever you were doing 5 seconds
just
ago.
turns himself into like a fucking ground zero hotspot of demonic power, just murdering everybody.
Masked Lumen happens in verse 9, which is at the very end of the chapter,
Yes.
where he just basically fights Balder, who is showing up with the intent to, I guess, kill fucking.
He's trying to kill Loki. And so Dante
Oh
obviously
yes,
steps in
and
to
Dante
stop
would be
him.
like, "Hey, listen, I have problems with Yu-Gi-Oh too, but like that's no need to kill. There's no reason to kill the Yu-Gi-Oh players over the fact that they don't shower. Like that's okay. I know they really need to clean up, but you're like you can't do that.
You can't
And then
kill.
obviously Balder took exception to that.
And then the fight begins, which.
As a true and blue Magic the Gathering player.
Why is Baldur the Magic the Gathering player?
Because Loki is the Yu-Gi-Oh player.
Boo.
It's the only thing that makes sense.
Fucking all the other card games just crying in the corner. Anyways, so this one's gonna be a little. So the problem is that Dante's gotten stronger since the start by virtue of just fighting and existing. So even if we were to start him off at Bayonetta's level, he would have gotten stronger by this point. And while I personally believe Baldur's stronger than Bayonetta overall during their encounters in Bayonetta 2, Dante would probably just be stronger than Baldur by this point.
It's also not a vast difference. Like Baldur doesn't completely outclass her. She is able to keep up with him. She is able to fight him. He's a little bit stronger than she is because he does beat her in the encounters. But he's not like one-shotting her. So even if we said like he'd be stronger than the Bayo, even if we said he would be stronger than the Bayo at this point, wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, so Dante just has...
Also, Dante's gonna know who Baldur is when he sees him. So he's probably either gonna attempt to knock him unconscious, disarm him, or power null him. Because he'll just realize, like, oh, I looked at your soul and your intentions, and yeah, you're just Baldur. I literally fought you, like, I don't know, a year ago, or whenever the hell that was. But for some reason, you had another blue guy inside your body. You don't for some reason. You seem younger. This is strange.
I wonder if anyone would know how this stuff works.
I have too many questions.
So yeah, so even then, like, even if you were to put them as comparable, Baldur's only real advantage, or I say quote unquote advantage, would have been light speed, but that doesn't really work on Dante, and that's like his only.
That's just Quicksilver, but worse.
And yeah, like lightning, fire, holy attacks, stabbing him, blasting him, like none of this stuff's really gonna work on Dante. There's nothing really that Baldur has that put him down. And again, every time Dante gets hit, he's going to be getting stronger. So even if Boulder could put up a fight early on, that gap will kind of start being closed off relatively quickly.
I'll also say that like I don't think Dante's gonna kill him because he'll recognize that it is Balder, and he'll probably take off his mask in the first like exchange. Because once he sees him, he'll be like, "Oh, you seem pretty familiar." Not nearly as pale as I remember, much younger. But yeah, I'll probably. This is where it gets a little weird because, like, I don't think like Dante would kill him if he really had to, but Dante's probably going to be like, "Yeah, you're being manipulated because you are under the impression that this child who has no memory and basically has complete amnesia, um, almost, except for the fact that he just needs to get to this mountain, presumably to play Yu-Gi-Oh, um, has killed your wife, who I'm also assuming is a Magic the Gathering player."
I mean,
Yes.
you could argue that if Dante knocks out Balder here, he'd probably like give him the Rodon or something to hold on to, so that way he can just like not have to worry about it later on. The problem is that
So,
Balder
yeah.
leaves the fights and then comes back later. But if he gets knocked out here, unless we assume that like Lobster's gonna come and save him, we don't really have like any
I,
reason to assume that there'd be another one popping up later on.
I don't think there would be. Um, yeah. I mean, I think it probably just ends there for the Balder conflict. He probably just sends it to Rodon because he's like, listen, you want to make yourself useful? Yeah, so there's this guy that just keeps bothering me. I'm pretty sure he's the Balder from like years ago. Can you please just like watch him so I don't have to deal with this? Please explain to him that there's been a terrible misunderstanding.
Yes. So now we have, after that's been taken care of, we have to go up the mountain, which Bayonetta does by using a blue device to basically
Yes.
rewind time back to where the bridge was constructed.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. There's a bunch of remembrances of time there, which Loki uses them. Basically, he would just accompany Loki there till he keeps finding his way. They basically climb most of the mountain with the I want to say the Cathedral of Cascades, and I believe the Bridge to Heavens.
Yes.
Um,
An angel gets in his way. Looks like a Valor. Valor just
now,
dies relatively quickly.
now I'm trying to remember. I think they get interrupted during the Bridge of Heavens because they get sent. So yeah, so during the game, during the Bridge of Heavens mission, I believe at the end, they get interrupted and they get sent to hell or something akin to that, or at least they get attacked by like underwater demons during the arc, and then they eventually end up in the portal area near like on their way to hell, which falls into chapter 8 and chapter 9 before they actually officially arrive there. Because it is stated multiple times that Fimbulventr is basically one of the locations in the realm of chaos that's essentially like it's very close to Paradiso and Inferno because it has portals that lead to both of those locations. So I'm trying to remember if Dante is just able, if he could just kill Valor, if he could just avoid falling into hell entirely, then we could just say he just goes straight to the top of the mountain. Um, Trying to remember if he gets there. You have anything to add, Zim, before I
No, I was looking at the walkthrough and I randomly got a pop up ad saying I have a virus. I was on the IGN walkthrough there, so that's a little weird.
Oh no, that's pretty rough. And well, I'm just looking through something to make sure because like the Bridge of Heaven was a bit. That was one of the only missions that technically threw me for a loop. Because you get pulled into a weird situation as a result of fighting Valor. Because you're already on your way up the mountain at this point for like I'm there in a reasonable length of time. Yeah, yeah. So they're approaching the mountain, which is keep in mind the bridge scales all the way up the side of the mountain, so they can literally just run there. And then I believe Valor just destroys it.
Can we argue that Dante kills Valor before that point?
Valor basically he's going through the ground, so probably not. But as soon as he gets up out of the ground, you can just argue like kills him immediately, and then just grabs Loki and then just jumps from every piece of wreckage, just runs up the rest of the bridge.
All right. So
because the problem initially is that Valor basically chases Vale all the way down.
Yes. Man, there are so many instances where she shows up in Paradiso in this game. Good lord.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, she goes to hell. So space when he's being eaten by one of her demons, and just drops them straight to the bottom of the mountain, being attacked by well, more accurately, they're dropped to the bottom of the ocean, which is the closest place to Inferno, and they end up being attacked by underwater demons. So technically, Chapter 7 probably doesn't happen because the arc only happens as a result of you being swallowed by the manta ray demon, and then there's like a Baldur fight inside. But as we established, Baldur is currently in the gates of hell, probably locked in a broom closet or something, playing Magic the Gathering. Whereas like Dante wouldn't have fallen off the bridge of heaven; he would have just run straight to the top. So we're just gonna assume, as a result of this, that he doesn't really have to deal with anything in most Chapter 6, any of Chapter 7. I don't think Chapter 8. Well, I will think Chapter 8 technically does happen. It's not going to happen at the point that it does. So more than likely, it's going to be something closer to what is it? Is it Sovereign Power?
Let me see.
Because technically, if they just took the route straight to the top of Fimbulvinter, they'd be able to take a portal down to Hell almost immediately. I mean, granted, well, actually, no, they probably still, they would still end up at Chapter 8 because technically their entire goal in going to Fimbulvinter, while they are trying to get to the top of the island, they're technically also trying to save John's soul.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess they would just end up going back to Chapter 8 then. So. Never mind. They go up to the top, only to go back down to the bottom. No. Except this time they actually have a portal on their way out, so they could just leave whenever they want to.
Maybe you're lagging a little bit.
What were you gonna say?
Leave real quickly and rejoin. You're lagging a little bit.
What were you saying?
Okay, no, I was gonna say, so yeah, no, but there's nothing really too crazy in Chapter 8 we're talking about, just simple time shenanigans, simple enemies. Dante just mows through these guys pretty easily. Doesn't really look
there's like a golem, but it's literally just a defensive object that just takes various shapes of various animals and whatnot. I think you'll probably be able to kill that pretty easily. Most of these demons, I'll be completely honest, their abilities are not really impressive compared to the DMC demons. A lot of them just have basic abilities or can manipulate emotions, and some of them can manipulate madness. Some of them can cut you off from the cycle of life and death by eating you. But that's not really going to work on Dante that effectively. Most demons have those passives in spades in DMC, so he'll just resist it. Aside from the fact that Bayo obviously resists it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's going to go through the entirety of Chapter 8 with essentially no problems, opening up a bunch of remembrances of time to get rid of the barrier around that one area of the Gates of Hell, because you have to activate 3 of these. And then by the time that finishes, he will then be fighting the Lopter, because Lopter is essentially there to get the eyes of the world. And as we established last time in the Bayonetta 1 situation, he just kind of has the eyes of the world. So we'll just say he had it in this game, because when Bayonetta was yeeted, the eyes of the world were just like, I don't know, mysteriously transferred out of the confines of her dressing room to his position on the street outside. How very convenient of the omniscient narrator. So basically, Lobster's like, yeah, you're basically the overseer, or a replacement for the overseer, temporary substitute, perhaps. Give me what's mine, the eyes of the world. And then Dante's like, no. So then a fight ensues. I'm gonna be honest. There is nothing that Lopter brings to the table, or Prophet in this case, brings to the table. Not only is this not really like the strongest that he could be, this isn't even like a proper Lopter. This is like a spiritual like avatar of Lopter. All he really has is like, your typical like laser energy manipulation, sometimes shenanigans. Um, just basically like extra arms. You know, his fighting style is essentially just like float near your position, zone you with lasers, and then shoot like, or then throw like a significant chunk of like extended like arms and limbs at you. But like at this point, Dante's fought like several Umbran witches and Lumen sages who all have like the same kind of fighting style. They all have ranged capabilities and projectiles, and all have extended limbs via like dimensional portals and things like that. Except his are easier to see because they spawn around his body. So since at this point Dante would have gotten vastly stronger, I would just argue in general he's gonna probably sweep Prophet, because Prophet has no resistances to a significant chunk of his abilities.
Yes.
And
there's also no Balder here, so there's no reason to actually open the gates of hell the way they did. So
yeah, also in this situation as well, Balder's also not here to attack Loki to keep him out of the fight. So if Loki wants to intervene, there's nothing Lopter can do to stop him. So not that that would make that much of a difference, but it is something that I would like to point out, that like Loki literally is able to use his cards to basically break open the gates of hell. I'm pretty sure if he hit Lopter with any of those, that would probably at least give him some knockback. And for all intents and purposes, that is essentially a free hit. And any free hit for Dante is considered like either in some cases just a flat out win con, or is like massive disadvantage for you that would lead to a win con. So I'm just saying, like, it's basically now a 2-on-1, and yeah, Gates of Hell isn't getting opened in this case, so there's not really anything Lopter can do unless he like retreats immediately at the start of the battle. But I don't think he's going to have that often.
Yeah, no. So Dante just clears here, goes into the next mission. They enter. Again, I don't really think there's anything too crazy in the next mission. He meets up with Rodon, and then Rodon basically tells him where to go to find like Jean's soul, because that's basically what happened in the game, right?
Yep. Yeah, he goes through mission 10, and then they go to a mission 11 where Alruna is, and yeah, she's basically sucking on Jean's soul, attempting to drive it completely mad. And it's like, yeah, you need to get out of my garden. And Dante's like, no way. I came all this way to the demon world, and I'm ready to beat your ass, just like the good old days. And then she's just like, no, I think not.
Called
I'll rule
Inferno,
over
actually.
Inferno. Even... He's like, you know what? That's fine. You can call it whatever you like. Say that until after you win.
Only the winner can decide what this realm is called.
Well, after we're done winning, I'll take my rightful place as the ruler of Inferno, and not Queen Sheba. I'm like, you mean Mundus?
Rodon just comes to the background. Just don't bother. Just let him say it.
Just let him have it. Let him be wrong.
So Dante saves Jean, beats Alrine. Maybe
I'll be honest. She doesn't have anything. All she's got is like poison manipulation and like curse manipulation, stuff like that.
Maybe you can argue Rodon would still get the weapon. he didn't tell Dante to be gentle as far as like in this run, so maybe he gets her, maybe he doesn't. But there's not a serious threat here. Mission 12.
Uh,
Oh,
doesn't happen.
yeah, basically just
Mission 12, Mission 13. Mission 13 might happen. Maybe? Mission 12 doesn't happen because that's just called the Lumen Sage. Like that's just like that happens as a result of Balder showing up to attack and intercept Loki.
I
But
mean, if you
Balder, well, go ahead.
oh no, I wasn't. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. It is they're just leaving, and then Balder attacks them. Then Loki loses like his control of his powers and sends them back. But I was gonna say is that if you think Mission 13 or 12 happens, or 13 or 14, then basically the game ends like 2 missions earlier.
Well, they still need to get Loki to the top of Fimbulvinter.
Yeah, but
So
like
I guess like I guess they would just leave. They would just go back to the portal that they came in like a few missions earlier. So they'd spend a mission to backtrack, and they would just go back up to the top of the mountain and finish it with all power. Loki would get the rest of his memory back, and we'd be like, "Oh, okay, I am the other half of the Aesir."
then Lopter
And then they
shows
could
up
explain,
like, "Ha, I'm gonna beat you guys in the fight."
"I'm gonna beat both of you in a fight," and then Dante's like, "No, no, you're not."
It's like, I'll be both in a fight, then I'll rule over Paradiso and Inferno. You know what? I've had enough of this Inferno nonsense.
We could just say that Rodan, out of just being cheeky, lets Balder go. Uh, lets Balder out of the gates of hell for a minute, and Lopter shows up as his child form just to just to mess with them, just to mess with Dante. And Dante's like, I can see souls, right? And then Balder sees him and is like, oh, so you're the one that killed my wife. Like, listen, Balder, there's nothing personal.
She just had
Just
to go,
business.
bro. It's just business.
Those Magic the Gathering players, they're just so fucking irritating sometimes. I mean, you should really switch to Valorant.
What the fuck? What was wrong? Those aren't even the same type of game.
Or you should really switch to Vanguard or something.
It's like, there are other card games you
You
can
should
play,
really
Balder.
switch to
It's
Vanguard,
not-
man.
Listen, she just wasn't good for you, okay?
I love every fucking person in this game is just playing a different card game. Why they hate each other? It's not the cosmology; it's just the card game.
Yes, but so again, the problem here is that even if Balder somehow or not Balder, even if Lopter somehow gets the 2 eyes of the world, because if he fights Dante in the past, he dies to Dante in that battle. He has no resistance.
I'm talking about in the context of like they're at the top of Fimbulvinter at this
Yes.
point, so like he would have had to have showed up in his child form. So there's no point in him. Well, I mean, it really doesn't matter what he has because he would have to grab the left and right eyes of the world, which means he's going to have to take the right eye from Balder, and he's going to have to take the left eye from Dante.
Yeah,
And,
the point I'm trying to make is that like there's no real outcome for Lopter here where he comes out or lives long enough to achieve Azir's form in this scenario. Because if he fights Dante in the past, well, Dante's probably going to kill him before then because Lopter has no resistances to almost all of his abilities or passives. And if he fights them at the top of the mountain, he's never going to get the left eye off Dante unless he has some sneaky way of just getting it off of him. But we see that he has to grab it.
And in this situation, since Dante's kind of just like, yeah, I don't really trust you people. Also, you're literally the guy that was inside of Balder's body the entire time, and all those machinations and those scheming that you had to revive Jubileus, that was kind of boring. And I gave you the left eye and right eye back then. It didn't do anything. So this time around, I'm not giving you the left eye for the sake of my own personal amusement.
Yes. So, yeah.
So
Lopter just gets killed. Balder still around. Probably goes back in time to save his wife. Maybe decides to become a semi-decent father in the end.
maybe actually succeeds this time around.
Loki just, I guess, keeps the eyes of the world or something. I mean, they're his eyes. Maybe he just lets them have it and moves on with his day.
Probably.
Go on.
Well, like the eyes of the world don't even need to exist technically anymore. He could just use the power of Sovereign to either like erase them Or he could just be like, yeah, I mean, they could exist, but you don't need them, or he could take them back. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
They don't
so
need to be there. He could just use his power to stabilize the world and be like, yeah, they don't need to exist. Because that's literally what he did in Bayonetta 2. He just made it so that people could live without the eyes of the world. So,
Dante, now having become the ultimate victor, has now crowned Inferno as the demon world. Now all must accept his decree.
and then, uh,
Nothing else really.
and then Rodon to celebrate is like, hey, listen, man, I got this really cool weapon for you. Yeah, it's right over there in that room. Why don't you go in there? And then shuts the door behind him, takes a portal in there, and he's like, all right, it's time to fight now.
Yeah, no, but
I'm tired.
I'm tired of this whole under demon world shenanigans. You're gonna learn today, boy.
This inferno slander.
I they don't call me the infinite one for nothing, boy. But yeah, no. So yeah, nothing really else too crazy happens. The problem is that either way, this is also assuming the left eye doesn't just dip with Bayonetta when she like gets yoinked out. Regardless, Lopter never achieves Azir. Even if he did, it wouldn't really do much because not only could Bayonetta fight Azir, but Loki would still just erase the eyes of the world, etc., etc. You know.
Even if hypothetically he could use all the powers of the eyes of the world to its complete and total disposal, and we didn't have this weird like Bayonetta scaling chain problem where he just gets them erased. Dante has literally fought people who can see in and beyond an entirety of the infinite multiverse all at once, and he's like, yeah, no, I can. Like Chen with the Beast Heads had the exact same power. I would argue it was probably more impressive because the 2A multiverse in DMC is much bigger than the one in Bayonetta.
Oh,
So,
fuck neutrality.
yeah. Um,
But yeah, no.
well, it's not even a neutrality, it's a fact. Like, sorry.
Yeah, no. So regardless, there's no real outcome where this story doesn't get solved either easier or faster. I mean, if we're being honest, like push comes to shove, you could even make an argument that Rodon would be willing to just let Dante go to hell directly. Like maybe he'd just be yank him along since Dante's already a demon. He probably wouldn't have to go through all these shenanigans.
Yeah. He also has a job that he's completing anyway, and he usually lets Bayonetta slide on some stuff. So he'd be like, yeah, it'd be more convenient for my business and my job if I sent you there anyway, because I was already going there myself. So
Yeah,
yeah, we have ways to get Dante into hell that don't
yeah.
involve the left eye.
Yeah, so there were faster routes that could have been taken. Granted, in this route, he basically does all of the campaign more or less, but again, most of that stuff gets changed because Baldur gets knocked out relatively early on. Luca doesn't really matter
Yeah.
here. Enzo doesn't really matter here. Jean coming back doesn't really matter here because by the time she would get back, Lopter would be dead.
Yeah. Again.
Yeah, so I guess that's about it unless there's anything else left to say.
It's not much.
Alright. Well, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on the next stream or video. Take care, everybody.